Hello, welcome to this session of Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. My name is Vyshnavi Pochampally, and today I'm delighted to be representing Stanley, and I'm excited to be having a discussion about tech and tech careers with Mariela, who is a program manager at Engineering for Change. Talking Tech is a series celebrating girls and women in tech being recorded around the world between Girls in ICT Day 2020 and Girls in ICT Day 2022. Girls in ICT Day is an International Day marked on the fourth Thursday of each April. In 2020, Girls in ICT Day was 23rd of April. The objective of Girls in ICT Day are to help to create a global environment that empowers and encourages girls and young women to consider studies and careers in the growing field of information and communication technologies. The Talking Tech series is brought to you by the ITU, UNICC, and the Office of UN Secretary General, Envoy of Youth, and is in support of Equals, the global partnership of gender equality in the digital age. Stanley College is pleased to be a partner on this session today. The goals of the series include to interest and inspire girls and younger women with information about a range of ICT careers that can be had, bring before a broader audience some of the role model women in tech, and share information about their career journeys and work, offer diverse examples on how ICT is being used to support achievements of the Sustainable Development Goals and other UN goals, showcase initiatives that are working with girls to support them in ICT studies or future ICT careers, produce girls and young women in tech and a leadership opportunity to represent and promote a girls in tech organization with which they are involved and promote it to broader international audience. To kick the session off, I'm going to introduce you to Stanley College of Engineering for Women, which has been promoting and empowering women careers in tech since 2008. As you can see, a more gender balanced tech sector is something that I'm passionate about and working towards. So I'm delighted. So now shift to conversation with Mariela, who is a program manager at Engineering for Change, a tech for Dev nonprofit based in NYC, where she works actively in ICT for the Tech for Dev fields all over the world. She has worked both in private sector telecommunication companies and in nonprofit organizations devoted to technology for development and ICT for D. She worked as project manager for Telefonica, an international telecoms company present in over 15 countries and three continents for over 5 years, which gave her much needed perspective of which actual state affairs and ICTs all over the world. Mariela co-authored a report together with Jeffrey Sachs, who is a very well-known American economist that has presented at the World Economic Forum of Africa in 2016 on how ICT could enable the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals by 2020. An article on ICTs in Cuba for Foreign Affairs, among others. Hi, Mariela, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thrilled to be here.
So, to start the interview, when and how did you get into technology?
So both of my parents are electrical engineers, and one of them is specialized also in communications. So that was kind of my pathway since I was little. I remember helping my parents make the plans for how to distribute the lights in houses. So that was kind of the pathway I had since I was born. I actually almost shifted to another area, to anthropology, but then I decided to stick with tech since I love mathematics and physics, and it was kind of 50-50. So I decided to go with telecommunications. It's ICT in my country. I'm from Venezuela. It's called telecommunications, but it's basically ICT, and it's electronics engineer specialized in communications. So everything related to how everything communicates, mobile, the internet, etc. How about you? How did you get into technology?
When I was 12, I read a book on how robots have the supreme power. They took humans under their control and started ruling them. There was a fun thing, but I don't know. I started collecting all robots and artificial intelligence articles. Whenever I find them in newspapers, I used to collect them, and that became a passion to me later on. And now I'm pursuing undergraduate degree in computer engineering, and I want to do so in future too. I would like to pursue my whole entire career in artificial intelligence.
That's very cool.
I love mathematics too. I love maths, physics, and chemistry.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that you need to love. At least when I studied telecommunications in Venezuela, we need to do 5 years of engineering. And we did so much math that if we did 2 more semesters, we'll get a degree in mathematics. So that's why I chose also ICT, because I wanted a lot of mathematics in the curriculum. So Yeah, I guess that's one thing that you need to like at least.
Yeah, I totally agree. What's your job or role in tech now?
Yeah, so now I transition. So I started, like when you read my bio, my quick bio, I started as a normal telecommunications engineer back home, working in deploying telecommunication networks. And that means the hardware and the software embedded in everything related to the connectivity that you have on your mobiles or at your home. So I worked
Oh,
there for 5 years and I did a lot of things that was very tech related. I started with antennas, so I went all over my country to kind of and went onto towers, like I climbed towers, telecommunication towers, to see if there was line of sight because these antennas need to see each other. So you needed to go up, take pictures so that they install the antenna in the right place so that it had connection. And then I went on to do the deployment, a little more like bigger things, which was the deployment of the internet hardware and software for like regions. And that was like in data centers. So I had to go to the data centers to also see where the hardware and software will be installed. So that was very tech related. But I had a passion since I started college of applying this for the benefit of humanity. Like how could I, help also connect the people that were not connected, etc. So I did my internship in the Peruvian Andes in Peru in a village that had 100 individuals. And we did a telemedicine link that was connecting the health center with the main hospital so that the doctors could call and people not died in the middle, that they could also get advice. So we connected that health center to the main hospital, and after that I said this is what I want to do for a career. But you need a lot of experience to do that because the complexities of installing this is much higher than the complexities of installing the other hardware and software with the big telco. You have a lot of people there that helps you install, but when you do this type of work with nonprofits on the ground, etc., you need a lot of experience. So that's why I decided to first do the private sector work and then transition into a nonprofit world. And that's how I arrived in New York City when I did my second master's in development practice, MPA in development practice, to kind of transition into that. So now I'm an engineer for change and the American Society of Mechanical Engineers here in New York. And I work with a team that is devoted to this intersection between engineering and social impact. I'm the lead of ICT, but I also manage other programs. So my role now in technology is more like an advisor. I need to know what they're speaking about in order to advise. So we do research around very specific topics. So for example, we did a research last year with Huawei in Kenya around what were the solutions that were being deployed in northern Kenya to bridge the gap in health, in work related, in education, etc., in agriculture. So we did a mapping of all the solutions that existed, and we had to analyze the networks and the connectivity. So that's how now I'm kind of advising more than doing technology and supervising kind of the work of many engineers that are trying to find insights on how to help the world achieve sustainable development.
oh, I really love your idea and I'm proud to be here talking to you. Do you
Thank
have
you.
any activities beyond your job that you would like to tell us about?
Well, I love what I do in general. I run a fellowship program for young engineers that are wanting, and this is also for you if you're interested in your future, that are trying to get into this field of social impact or trying to achieve impact in their communities. So we run a program that now has 50 per year, and we're like that. It's scaling with every year. That it's one of my favorite parts because I'm helping the next generation also achieve impact with their engineering skills, and that's something that I'm passionate about. Another thing that I also do part-time is I teach a master class at Columbia University at the School of International Affairs, and it's kind of an introduction to ICT for development, we call it. I'm passionate about that because it's usually the introduction of technology to development practitioners that have never heard what is hardware and software. They don't know what the internet is. For them it's just like the cloud. I initiate and I say the internet is not magic because they usually don't know what the difference between Wi-Fi and broadband is, for example. So that class is something that I'm really passionate about as well.
Can you share an example or two of things that you have done with tech that you're particularly proud of?
In tech specifically, I don't know if it's tech, but it's tech related. The research that I conducted with Jeffrey Sachs was something that I'm very proud of. It was when I arrived here in New York, and it was a great opportunity for me to get my feet or my brain inside this world of ICT to achieve impact or ICT for development. And that gave me a big opportunity to work with also private sector that was sponsored by Ericsson. And it gave me a lot of time to dig very deep into what ICT has done. How are we achieving impact and how can we achieve impact? So that, I'm very grateful about. And also very proud of the work that we did in Cuba with Columbia University, kind of analyzing what was the infrastructure gaps that existed in Cuba. What about you? Tell me a little about you. What's something that you have done in tech that you're very excited about?
I'm still a student. I haven't done anything to extreme levels, but I've done a small project which uses data science and particularly used for competitive and comparative searches, where it took sleepless nights and continuous search for books and new information for a month. And that important thing in that project is our hard work paid off. We were really encouraged and we received many compliments, and that made us happy. And particularly, that was the first tech award, and hopefully, it won't be the last. That was my very
So
first
cool.
tech award.
Yeah, and those awards are very meaningful when you're starting. You know that I started also in computer engineering and then I changed. I did 2 semesters in computer engineering and then I transitioned into telecommunications.
Cool.
So I know what that means, being in a place like coding until like very late at night. So good job.
Thank you. So the next question is, have you ever encountered any gender-based tech challenges along the way? And if so, how did you overcome them?
I mean, there's many challenges when I entered Telefonica, and this is more of the gender kind of relationships, and everywhere in the world is different. In Venezuela, it's not as bad, but I remember that when my first supervisor in Telefonica hired me, he told me this job, the one that is climbing towers, has never been awarded to a woman because of how hard it is, for a woman to climb. But since you have told me about your experience in Peru and I see that you're feisty, I will give it to you. I like you. So he gave me that opportunity, and that was, I don't know if a challenge, but for me, it really put me to give it my all because I wanted more women to enter after me. So I remember when they were like, you don't want to put the harness to protect yourself when you go up. And there were men that were doing the same thing that didn't. So at the beginning, I just said, no, I don't need it. I will climb like exactly like you're climbing. It's fine. I'm not afraid. And they were very impressed. So after me, at 2 years after I was there, they started hiring women. So yeah, those are maybe challenges, or I don't know if challenges or opportunities. In my opinion, there's opportunities more than challenges. But I think that was a good one that I remember and I'm proud of.
In my opinion, you created a change for other women to come and pursue their dreams. And I have this question. You have mentioned that you've worked with Jeffrey Sachs. Can you
Yes.
please tell about your work?
Yeah, so that work with Jeffrey Sachs was out of Columbia University when I was in the middle of my MPA in development practice at the School of International Affairs here in New York. And I got the opportunity because I was the only engineer that they had in my cohort. The MPA is very big, but we are part of the development practice cohort that it's very tight, and we're much in contact with the program managers, the director of the program. So when I arrived, I told him, I'm here to do a lot of things. So I want to do something related to technology for development. So he always had me in mind, and everyone, there. And when this opportunity arrived at their door, they called me directly because it was ICT, it was engineer. So they thought it was a great opportunity. So it really landed in my lap. But I'm very proud that I also started opening doors for engineers that are entering or setting the stage so that, we can really, because when I enter, I was the second engineer in the cohort ever and the first Venezuelan in that specific development practice that it's very SDG, related. It's very particular in the way they teach the class there. They believe that sustainable development is achieved in the field, that you need to practice it and you need to like really think through what has been done and what can we do better. So it's very practical perspective. So yeah, that work with Jeffrey Sachs was divided into buckets. We had ICT in health, so it was divided by SDG, ICT in agriculture, ICT in education, and they assigned me ICT in health. So that's why I'm saying that it really opened a lot of doors for me because I had the pathway ready for me to do many interviews like you're doing now with a lot of experts that had worked for many years in ICT and health. So with the mobile apps that were trying to bridge the gap of women that were in labor in rural Africa, with doctors online, online through SMS or any other aspect. So that really provided me a bigger perspective. And that report was published or was released in the World Economic Forum in 2016. It was launched there, and the title is ICT and the SDGs. And it's basically an analysis of what has worked and what is needed for ICT to achieve actual impact and to help the achievement of the SDGs in 2030.
That sounds really great. Since this series is about girls and women in technology, do you have any career advice for tech girls or girls and younger women in tech?
Yes, I have many, but I think the main point is to feel empowered. Like we as women, as I mentioned before, with the opportunities, and there's many different countries and different ways of perceiving us. There's many jobs that are seen as men related. In my country, fortunately, this was a small example, but afterwards, when I started to grow in my company, all my bosses were women, and actually the director was a woman. So in Venezuela, the gap wasn't as bad. My mom was an electrical engineer herself. So it's not as bad, but I know there's countries where these gaps are big. So my main advice to all of you is to feel empowered and to see this as opportunities to open doors rather than challenges. See it with another lens, not see it as, oh, I have to fight, because like they don't respect me, but rather as like, okay, this is not a challenge. This is a huge opportunity for me to prove to them that this we can do, and we can do even better than them if we set our minds to do so, because we have more pressure and something to prove. So usually in my own experience, these women are like excel because, we have a responsibility in some of these things. And I will also tell girls that there's an opportunity for you to apply also this technology, all this tech related, the coding, everything related to technology, hardware, and software could also be applied for the benefit of your communities. And, at Engineering for Change, we get 50% women, and we work worldwide. But at this intersection between engineering and social impact, you also get, an opportunity to apply this. And I think this is very women, that we see society in a bigger way, and we see our role in society in a more holistic way, in my experience of what I have seen and what I have seen in the world. So you have an opportunity also to create change with this unique perspective. You don't need to become men are, just code and that's it, but rather, integrate it into your own way of seeing things, because I think the world, and especially tech, needs this perspective. So I would say to women also, try to find your own pathway and your own way of creating tech, and tech for good, if even better. But like in general, like try to bring in your perspective so that we can change the world, because women are not included in that change. I don't think the change will ever happen, or the SDGs. So
I agree. I totally agree. I've read many books telling the same thing. But when we see the real change, we feel the real change. And I see the change in you, and I'm proud to be here. I have a very personal question. If you could go back to the time when you were 20, what advice you would give to yourself?
I will tell myself, you will do everything that you are set up to do. You can achieve everything that you want. Like I would just remind myself that I'm strong, that we're all strong, and that we can really achieve what we want if we really put our effort and our passion and our mind into it. So I would just remind myself that's feasible. I remember when I was applying to Columbia University here in New York, being an engineer, a telecommunication engineer working in a private sector company, and wanting to come here for an MPA in development practice was like so disconnected. And I felt that I was not going to fit in, that I was going to be perceived like, what is an engineer doing here? And it was the opposite. Like they actually saw it as a huge plus. I ended up advising projects. I'm still advising projects in the technology perspective there. And I teach a class. So there's a lot of opportunity. If you feel that you're worthy, and you see, even if this doesn't sound logical at all, and my parents didn't understand why I was wanting to come here, because I had a successful career in tech already, I would remind myself then, everything, it's going to be okay. And, your perspective, this perspective that I'm telling you, that is uniquely feminine, or like from women, that you're like, okay, I'm in tech, but I want more. I want to create change. I want to get higher. I think that's something that I would have reminded myself for sure. Do you have any messages for other young women in tech, or even not so young women in tech, in companies and academic organizations, that you would like to share?
I've not seen much of my life yet, but the only thing I know is nervousness and excitement feels the same. So if if you are being nervous about something, you just have to tell yourself that I'm really excited about this. So you just have to fake it till you make it. You have to fake confidence till you make it. And that's how I've been leading my life, all my 20 years of my life. I hope I'll do the same thing in the future too.
That's a great advice. I continue to fake it until I make it. I think that's a great advice, and it's really related to what I was saying, that you really need to believe, that you're gonna make it, and in order to make it, when you haven't already, you need to fake it, right? So at the end of the day, you need to put your head high and continue and try to get wherever you are setting yourself up to. I like that.
So thank you. So that wraps up our session today for Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. Thank you so much, Mariela. I really enjoyed our chat today. Thank you so much for our viewers for watching.